So it's been some time since we've been together. Our last call has been late January. So today, what we're hoping to cover is a quick recap of what we've been doing for the last couple of months. What were the latest improvements that were added to the WebParts that we've been working on in the past few months. So mostly focused on the new WebPart experience. We'll also be discussing what we're envisioning for the future. So we're focusing now on improving our calendar and slider WebParts. We still haven't completely defined the requirements for these two. One of the main goals for today's call is to have and collect all your feedback and suggestions for these two WebParts. We will have a starting point where what the team is working on now and how we're envisioning these two WebParts to work, but we're really looking forward to your comments and feedback here. Joining me today on the call as usual, it's Marco. Today we won't have a demo. It will be mostly me doing the talking, but Marco will be here with us to address any questions and just discuss some ideas for the product roadmap. He's a great team member, so I'm sure you will take all your feedback to the team. Okay, so for those who are joining us today for the first time, and I know there's some newcomers, the goal of this community is to share firsthand new functionalities that we've been adding to BindTuning product suites. We organize regular calls, ideally every month or 2 months, in which we share our plans and ask for feedback. For the past year, we've been focusing on the WebParts new experience, so the WebPart refactoring that we're doing to align the configuration and usability experience with the modern standards. Since our last call in January 31st, we've done 4 releases. In March 23, we launched the new version of People and Documents. And since then, we've had so much feedback from all our customers and partners.
Hello.
That, sorry.
I'm sorry.
You're muted, Francisca.
Yeah, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Hello?
Thanks, Marco. Yeah. Where did I stay? Well, the 4 releases since March 23, when we launched the People and Documents WebPart, we've been getting a lot of feedback from customers and partners, and we have been doing smaller releases to either fix bugs or add functionality that was missing from that first version. And that's the approach that we want to take with pretty much all the WebParts we're launching, right? So we want to get your feedback and continuously improve the products we're launching to the market. So for today's call, we will be discussing the upcoming releases of Calendar and Slider. The Insider release for these 2 WebParts will be on June 26th, and we're hoping to make them generally available early July. Again, the same logic will apply. We'll probably add an MVP to your account, and from then we will keep building on the functionality. One very important thing from today's call, we're committing to add some of the functionalities that you will be sharing with us today to this Insider version from June 26th. So a great opportunity to share your requirements here. Okay, so starting with documents and the functionality that was already added since we first made this available in March. Creating document library from the WebPart, it was not possible in the first version of the WebPart. You still had to go and create the SharePoint document library in the backend, not the experience we want to provide. So now that's working as it should. So you can create the new library from the WebPart configurations panel. Social engagement. So we've added comments and likes to one layout, but to all the models. So when you're previewing the document, you can see how many likes that specific document has, additional comments, the rating that was given. One very important thing to note about this, though, is that there's some pre-configuration that needs to be done. There's instructions available in the knowledge base on how to do this. So to make sure it works perfectly for your environment, please follow those 3 steps. You can see a screenshot here of how the WebPart looks with the ratings, the likes, and the comments. We've also removed or we've also added the possibility to remove any column from any layout by setting a content placeholder as not in use. And this can be tricky to explain without a visual support, but let's say your document library has a couple of columns and you don't want to show them all in the layout. You can say that you don't want to use a specific part of the layout. There's nothing interesting that you want to show in there, so you can just say that you don't want to use that field, and we will remove that from the layout. This was in the first iteration. We had some mandatory fields, and that was kind of blocking the flexibility that we want to allow to our customers. We've also allowed for defining the webpage height, even if you don't have 4 rows of documents, because you only have 3. You only have 5 or 6 documents, but if you want to fix the webpage height so that, for example, it's aligned with another section, you can still do that. So we've given you extra control over that. Very important new feature, also commonly requested, is the ability for the end user to group by their documents by a predefined field. So if I have a field in my document library that's document type or file size, and I want the end user to be able to group documents by those fields, I can do that. What we're considering right now is to have the admin define those group bys by default. So not just giving that power to the end user, but also making it available to the admin. So that's how it works for the end user. So in this case, the admin decided that end users can group documents by file type and modify by. So when the end user accesses the page in which this document webpage is loaded, you can just select that button that I've highlighted in yellow and group documents by one of those fields. New layout sizes, and this was probably the biggest piece of feedback we had. So lots of our customers, many of our customers said that the documents webpage suddenly was taking like too much space, right? Icons were too big. So we listened to you, and we made, for each of the layouts we have available, we've added a layout size field that allows you to choose from a large to a medium and small layout. So I'm going through those 3 now. So if you can see, it's the same layout, but with different sizes. And this is available to the majority of the layouts we have available. So we've also added support for URL files, also based on feedback from a customer. Some of the URLs we won't be able to open them in a model, but we're still giving you the option to define for a specific web page where you want the content to be consumed from. So if you want it to open in a separate tab, you can still do that. We started supporting regional date formats, so we weren't supporting those in the first web page version, and supporting document sets as well. So a couple of new good things for documents. On people, we now allow for contacts or sets of contacts that are being shown in the web page. We're allowing the end user to export those contacts to a CSV file. This is an option that needs to be enabled by the admin, okay? We're supporting external users. We're enabling the admin when they're configuring to show guests, for example. There we go. And we've added additional fields to the search capabilities. So if the admin decides that it's important for the end user to search people by phone extension, for example, or country code, or city or country or office location, we can do that. So if you see now, if I search on the BindTuning directory for our country code, only our Portuguese employees will show, right? Everyone in the US won't display here because it's searching for that country code. We've added a shuffle option as a default sorting when using Azure AD. So that means that if you want different people to show in your landing page every time the page is loaded, so that it's not always N with an A that starts the list, then now that's available. And we've also added additional fields to configure layouts when the data source is not Azure AD, which I know it's probably the most used source now, but SharePoint list. So we'll keep supporting the SharePoint list experience and improving that. On lists.
I have,
sorry,
I have one comment. Not sure if you can help us to have it. The sorting is limited. Not sure if you can enhance again the people whopper by adding the custom sorting. That would be useful. So we can sort the people within the people whoop part.
Okay. When you're connected to Azure AD or when you're connected to a SharePoint list? Azure AD.
Yes, that's right. Azure AD.
Okay.
If you can enhance that part, that would be really useful.
Okay.
You are saying, sorry, you were saying like custom fields, or which fields are not you cannot use?
Custom field, for example, this is one. Number two, it's limited. The sorting will be limited to one fields only. Let's say I have more than one field. Let's say
I understand.
to sort by the display name, then by the or let's say by the department, then by. So
okay, more than one criteria.
Yeah, and I also noticed that if I want to show one person within that web part, the page number will always show.
Yes.
I won't be able.
Yeah.
If you provide an option to hide, that will be good, to be honest.
No, that will definitely do. Okay. And Marco, I know you'll you'll agree with me. I think we've done it for the documents and news, but I don't think we've done it for the people. So
yes, exactly. So
right?
I hope that we will have this in your next release, hopefully.
Okay, good. Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you.
Okay, on to lists. So list was launched earlier, right? I think actually late 2022 already. But it's also one of the web parts that it's one of my favorites. Everyone knows that. I keep saying that to everyone. But it's one that we will keep improving and adding functionality to. One of the latest things we've done was removing the 5,000 items limitation. That was a common limitation to many of the BindTuning web parts. We've removed that from, I would say, every of the new web parts have this limitation removed. We've also allowed configuring custom labels for all layouts, so you can now define, you don't need necessarily to use the column name as the label for the field, right? So when you're configuring, we're expanding the customization that you can do. I'll show you a screenshot later. We're also already supporting multi-lists, and this is super important, something that we want to extend to all the BindTuning web parts that still don't have that, because you may want to combine data sources that come from either the same site, but also from different sites. And in some cases, you will need to combine more than one list for that. One of the biggest use cases for this is when you're using lists to create a news directory, which I know it's something, it's not obvious, but it's a very common use case for our customers and partners, right? So connecting site pages, modern news pages across multiple sites to one single web part to create a up-to-date, searchable, sortable news directory. And in here, what you see is two different sites, news from two different sites combined in one single view. And to make configuration easier when you're using news posts as your data source, we've added some specific news posts fields to be used in the layout configuration. Before, you had to use the double brackets. I don't know, many of you will remember from our legacy filters web part. Now we've made that configuration way easier. So you can build a beautiful news directory layout with these new options. Also, for that scenario, we've enabled the possibility of hiding the SharePoint Chrome on the preview model. So in this example here, we're previewing a news post, right? But you see that there's the theme, the customer theme is showing. So you have the navigation, you have the footer, you have the search. And when you're showing a news post, you don't want that to show necessarily, right? So we've added toggle that you can see there on the screenshot, what we call focus mode, that enables you to remove those header and footer options to really focus on what matters. In tabular layouts, we've made the first column configurable, so you don't necessarily need the title of the news post or the item to be the first column. So now you can change that, and you can also change the label. So what I mentioned before for the configure custom label layout, it's actually pretty obvious here. So as you can see, I'm using the title column as the first column in my list in both number 1 and number 2 WebPart, right? But in my second option here, I changed the label of that column to test label, right? I could give it a different name than what it's originally built in the source. So again, preserving this flexibility. Okay. Some additional.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Anthony. Seems that Anthony has that he just raised a hand. So probably
Okay.
any question that
Yeah. Sure.
you may have.
Thanks.
All right, so I have 2 questions. One thing for the list, and really any web part that's like the list, accordion, or anything like that. It'd be great if I could edit the order by dragging them around. And then also to be able to cycle through them. Like say I want to check through them and make edits to one at a time. It'd be great if I had like a back and forward button so I can switch from editing one to editing the one here, and then like dragging them around to customize the order.
Okay. What was that? So I the first one I got it. The second one. So would that apply to the list WebPart as well, or what was that?
When you're editing using the SharePoint, using the BindTuning UI.
Okay, editing.
It's hard to switch between them.
Okay.
And then my second question kind of goes back to the people web part. Is there a way to make it so it shows all the members of the SharePoint team or the members of the site that it's on?
Yes. So if they're labeled, if in Azure AD they are configured with either belonging to the same department, or if there's anything common in the user properties in the Azure AD that we can, if there's anything in common between them, then we can use Azure AD filters to show those. Alternatively, if they belong to a group, you can also say that in the specific WebPart that you're adding to that site, you want to show people from one group in specific. So you can define, so you can either link the WebPart to Azure AD and then use filters to choose who you want to show, finding what's common between all of them, or you can just configure the people WebPart connecting to a group, and you'll show everyone who belongs to that group.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Good. We can show you that. We can have a separate call and show
Okay.
you how to configure this. Good. I think there were more hands raised. I don't know if.
Yeah, happens. So I have a couple of questions. One is on the social engagement, right? So is it only for the documents, or will it be available for news as well? Because like our customers are interested in seeing those likes and comments count on the news section as well.
Yeah.
So,
Currently, they're just available in documents, but that's only because we still haven't gotten to the news WebPart refactoring, right? We finished the documents and people. We're working on calendar and slider now. When we get to the documents, we will most likely apply that there as well.
awesome.
Sorry, when we get
News.
to the news.
Yeah, got it. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And the second question is on the list web part, right? I know like the column rename and everything, those are really cool. And the 5,000 limit is really cool that we wanted that. And there is one more option that we are looking for is having some dynamic columns on the list, right? Let's say if you are having some two columns, like we have some Power Apps links where we wanted to point. So column A and column B is there. So probably we need to, take those values and then create a dynamic column on the fly, which is not present in the list, but it's on the dashboard. So we are looking for that option as well. Is it something on the cards?
It's not, but well, I'm glad you're bringing that up. Marco, does this make sense to you? Want to ask any follow-up question there?
Honestly, I didn't understand what you mean by dynamic columns. Can you explain better?
So, for example, let's say I have ID column in ID column in all the items, right? So let's say now I can create let's say Power Apps link. I can create a dynamic column on the fly, and then that Power Apps link I can specify any link and then question mark ID. I can build that query string and then pass that ID column so that it can be a dynamic link, but I do not create that column in the list. I'm just creating that column in the BindTuning list web part. So it's just like a temporary column on top of that. I know like several other products.
I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah.
Yep.
So you are saying that this dynamic column doesn't exist on the list, but you want to be able to do it inside the web parts and just put some rules to make an extra column, an extra field.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I believe it would be possible.
That could be really nice, actually, because that would limit, like, one of the things we don't want to add to an on-base or to a list is that we don't want to add columns all the time because it is affecting other viewers. So, like a OneDrive list, we've got viewers that are looking at it on their iPhones, so we can't just add columns. So that actually would be really handy. I love the idea.
Good.
That's all I have.
I like this. What we can do, Marco, if we need to deep dive on this a little bit more, is to maybe schedule a follow-up call.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just
To
separately.
understand
Is that
exactly
okay?
what customers need. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Good. Anyone else?
Yes, I just had a quick question about the people web part. I'm having difficulties with the filter. One thing is I wanted to use it for our IT department. And most of our IT users, they'll have two accounts. They'll have an admin account and their regular account. And so I'm having a problem filtering out those admin accounts. Is there a way to do that in that part right now?
We are saying that you are more. You have more results than expected, right?
Yes.
I understand. I think you can use as filter. You can use other criteria, like if they have licenses, and maybe did you try with just to put licensed people, users?
No, I can try that, but some of the admin accounts do have licenses, so that might not. Yeah, I'd have to find another way to filter out if I can't, filter out by certain names or email addresses or something like that. Yeah.
You have I think you have an option to add custom filter and just like choose email. And under email, you can say that email equals something, starts with something.
Okay.
Contains. You can try with that filter.
Okay, I'll play around with it. Thanks.
Marco, is it possible to have a filter that ignores content? So where we've done this before, I think, is where an admin account does not have, for example, a telephone number. So if you show all accounts that do have telephone numbers, then you should only get your employees, is a way that we looked at that in the past.
If I understand, you can use the phone field, and then you have the exist.
Sure, yeah.
Or not exists.
Caution on the phone numbers, not everyone has a phone number.
I'm just thinking of dealing with that.
We used the job title
issue.
Because I'm
just thinking you could say, yeah. Got to be
so you're saying
common, right?
like as if it was, so you could exclude people who don't have a certain field field, or no? Anyone who has like exclude blank phone numbers or exclude blank, is that it? Or
Yeah, I mean, that could work, right? I'm just thinking for the example where you're trying to exclude admin users, that might be a route for doing it.
Did you guys put an exists in there? Because it's not easy. I had to do starts with A or starts with B or starts with C or starts with D. Just so you guys, I can send the script in here as a chat. It's not the easiest thing, but that is the hack we've done. So as an ask, it'd be nice on your front end to say ensure field isn't blank or something. Give us that is nil that SharePoint doesn't give us.
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks.
okay. Marco, any thoughts here or follow-up questions?
Yeah, we will try the null or blank. We will try to see if we can put one more operator, yes, for the filter.
Okay, good. Good feedback. Anyone else here before I jump into the next ones?
I have a question that goes all the way back to the documents and letting them be social. When you leave comments and you do like the thumbs up and everything, where does that actually get stored?
That's for Marco.
Yes. So that's something that is stored natively inside SharePoint. So you, as Francisco said before, to use that you need to just activate some features inside the site. And we are just using the SharePoint native structure.
It's a column somewhere there.
It's not stored on our side. It's stored inside the items themselves. Yeah, on the SharePoint side.
Okay, so there's like a column or something that's recording all the data.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'll post at the end. I'll post or maybe Carlos, if you can do that, because I know you know where I'm talking about that. That the article that explains this with all the like pre-steps that need to be done and also where the data is stored. I think that could be helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? No. Okay. So I'll move forward. We can keep doing this. So keep raising your hands, and that's great. Just a quick round through all the other webparts that we've also made, or to which we've also done small improvements. Just calling out on celebrations, the excluding disabled users, and also the new contains filter for when the Azure AD is the source. For script editor and title. So script editor, we've improved support for scripts and embedded widgets. So we're now preloading some script dependencies before executing code. So this is about performance mostly, but we're also allowing you to control the webpart height and to center content. So I know some of you are using script editor quite creatively, so we're trying to support that. On title, we've added support for audience targeting, which made a lot of sense, right? Because if you were doing audience targeting to the webpart, but not the title would always show even to people that were not targeted by the webpart. So that was weird. We fixed that, and that should be okay now. Now, one thing that is not out yet, but it's done, and it will be released at the end of the month. It's in addition to the quick links webpart that will allow you as an admin to allow end users to add their own personal links to the quick links. So you as an admin define a preset of quick links, for example, in the homepage, but then the end user can add their own. So it would require you to toggle on this allow personal content under the actions. And then this would be the experience that the individual user would have when clicking on that my personal link that you see there. This panel would open and they would be able to just add their own quick links. This was also a customer request and idea. So
I like it. Where's that information actually stored at? So like if you have 50,000 employees, if everybody creates their own quick links, where's that data actually being stored?
Yes, it will be stored inside the user's OneDrive, inside the organization OneDrive. And there's a special folder, and we have a lot of warnings that saying, okay, this will be stored in your OneDrive under the folder, so please don't delete the folder later. But it's inside OneDrive.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Marco. Okay, so if there are no more questions here for the improvements, I would like us to take the last 10 minutes to deep dive on what we're working on for calendar and slider. Okay, so as I've mentioned, we're just at the beginning of the process. So both webparts are in early development stages. And we won't do a release today for these webparts. We will do it on June 26th. So everything you shared today here has a good chance of being included in our insiders release. And we will make sure to include, if not everything, but we will report back to you and say, okay, from everything that we discussed today, this is what we're including in our next release. So starting with slider. And the first thing that I need to say is that we sometimes debate ourselves over the name of slider. We sometimes think, okay, should this be called something else like a carousel? Assuming that we're keeping slider as the name, all our discussions started around what is slider actually being used for, right? And that's a good question. If you want to start inputting your answers on the chat, we would love that. Our understanding is that it's mostly used for displaying banners, announcing events, showing latest news, displaying videos. So mostly content that's dynamic and that's being sourced from somewhere else. But at the same time, some of our users also want to have keep the flexibility of adding. Today I'm adding a banner, just static content, maybe a picture and some text. And then tomorrow I may want to add a video, or I may want to add a picture. So when we were thinking about how we were going to evolve slider, we realized that it was important to preserve these two ways of working and adding content. So making it easier to add and display dynamic content, while at the same time enabling users to be flexibly creating content. That's why in this new version, we're preserving both. So we'll add this new data source, which is safe to this webpart, just like we've done with every other webpart. So making it easier to just add content to the webpart. We'll keep supporting lists with the configurable layouts and views that you're used now from lists and documents, in which you can map certain column fields to different layout placeholders. But we will also enable you to specify where your content is coming from. So choosing specific content, such as news, events, site pages, documents, videos. So things that you'd so far do with a smart slider and then use Camel Query to filter, we're wanting to replace all that by a way easier configuration experience. Still preserving the capability of supporting multiple sites, combining different sources that then the admin can filter, right? So we're also extending the layouts, and we're revisiting some of the layouts that exist, making them more modern. One of them is the full width layouts, but we will also rethink the card style layout, allowing you to configure the number of columns that currently you have available. And we'll also add a new layout, a vertical split, again, an attempt to make the slider more modern. Now, a very common concern about the slider is how you choose the right image size, right? And we know this is a pain for everyone. And our approach to this, well, let me take a step back. So because our webpart always adjusts to the container, to the webpart container, or the content always adjusts to the container, depending on the size of the section and the size of the screen, the image may look better or worse. And I know Marco will want to say something there, but our approach to solving this will be, or we're thinking of making it to be having the slider adjust to the image size that you have. Marco, do you want to add something here?
Yes, we are thinking because this is very difficult to achieve, to maintain the ratio of the image, and you want to see all the content of the image. So we have two options here. One is to use contains to center the image, and the contains will put the image. Everybody will see the entire image, but maybe you may have some blank spaces at the left and the right, or on the top or on the bottom. And another thing is just to have an option to let the slider height grows automatically depending on the width of the image. But yeah, here it would work if all the images that you are using they need to have the same ratio. Otherwise, the web part can be going up and down. So we are just trying to use something that you can configure, to achieve that.
Thank you, Marco. Any thoughts here? No? I thought this was going to be a lively topic.
I think it's going to be, it's never a great experience when you see a new image popping in and then the content itself changes height, particularly if you're carouseling or something like that. So maintaining the height of the space that the thing's moving in, I think, is important. I wonder whether you could potentially work with padding, dynamically padding the image content if you need to. So with a blurred section either side or top and bottom or whatever as the content moves.
That's what Marco's already, right?
I think we already have to center the image on top, on bottom, or just cover. But like applying a zoom or like to go up and go down, but to maintain the slider sizes. But the question is, when let's say you have an image and you don't want to crop or to zoom the image, you want to show every pixel of the image. That's when the things go difficult to achieve. And so we have two options. One is just to make sure that all the image is visible, but maybe you will have some blank spaces on top or at the side. Yeah. And the other one, as I said, is just to let the slider grow, as long as you all make sure that you have all the images with the same size. Yeah. For now, those are our solutions.
I think that this is, if we adjust the picture to the size, what we've seen commonly is that, for example, there's a banner that's being done by a separate team, like design or marketing, right? And then that banner needs to go into the intranet. If the banner is always built with the same size, following the same guidelines, then this smart adjustment of the slide height would work well, right? The problem is that if you're using a dynamic content source and you're not controlling that image size, then having the layout adjust may lead to a bad experience, like a jumping one, right? So this is a difficult one, but well, we're trying to solve it because we know that this is a common request. David, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, you got me thinking. I think the problem comes when we open up the content to end users, right? And then what they're adding is wrong. So maybe if we were to attack the adding of the image and on add, give them the fancy, how would you resize it? Kind of like when you make a new page at the top and you add an image, you got to pick how you focus on that image. If we could do something like that, that'd be like really high end, I think. And I think that would fix the problem. It's the content that's coming in from other people, right? So because the content we're adding, we can just add it right and it'll all look right, right? It's the external content that gets to be a problem. So
yeah. Okay, but I like your
always
idea.
the end user, right?
Always those darn users.
Okay. Well, Marco, I think I got what David was saying about the top of the page, right? There is that focus kind of drag and drop, right? In which you choose
just to focus the center or something like that. To put up and down. But when you say when users add content, what do you mean by you end users add content?
A marketing person or
right?
If
you like, if anyone's using like the list, right, and the content's automatically adding, instead, if we could say, hey, go to the slider, click the add button, and then your guys' dialogue would give them, hey, you're going to add this, how do you want it to add? And so if they add it that way, we would give them, it would look nice, and if not, it's just going to look cropped and or whatever, right? But we give them an option to make it pretty.
When they are adding a new slide, they choose the image, and we have an option just them to center the image, right? Okay.
It would feel like a power feature.
Thank you so much for the ideas. Keep those coming, okay? Because we need them here. We need them. Okay. Any more? And before I jump onto calendar, anything else that you would like to see on Slider that you think is missing at the moment, both from a content source perspective or configuration or anything that we're not seeing that it's currently a need? No? Did we get responses on the chat about what are we using Slider for?
No, the chat's quiet.
Oh, okay. So anything wants to open up their mic and tell me what their sliders are being used for? No? Did we cover it all?
We're using it for visions and values.
Okay. So that would be text and images.
Text and image, yeah. Yeah. Okay. So usually there's an image to support whatever the value or whatever of the organization. Also highlighting on people. So one thing that would be useful is how, I think we've addressed this, I think Carlos actually addressed this with me before, but an easy way of getting a user's image into a slider.
Okay,
so,
interesting.
And the avatar for a person.
That is a great idea.
Yeah. Good. That's good.
Yeah, so an example that was used, one of the clients wanted to recognize a person. So you know, you've done really well, blah blah blah. But they wanted to, rather than going off and picking an image of a person, just pick the person and then use whatever attributes about that person from AD.
Okay, that's super interesting. Thanks, Martin.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll jump into the calendar, and then if something else comes up, we will have time at the end, okay? Okay, so calendar is probably the web page from BindTuning that has more feature requests, probably than news. And we know the refactoring of this web page is long due, and we will ensure that we were including the majority of the things that have been asked so far, okay? One of the biggest ones is connecting to additional data sources. Top of the list is group calendars, right? Currently, the current BindTuning web page connects to SharePoint calendars, and it connects to the personal Outlook calendar, but it doesn't allow you to pick group calendars. So that's the first thing that we're going to do, is allowing support for group calendars, more than one group calendar at a time, okay? So this is a preview of how the panel is going to look. So you can see that there's a Microsoft 365 group there, allowing you to multi-select different groups, okay? Now, in a second iteration of this web grid, we will see how we can combine different sources for the same calendar. So if I want to show, for example, my personal calendar and my team's group calendar, I may want to do that in the same web grid, right? Or I may want to combine a SharePoint calendar that has all the corporate events with a group calendar, right? That has just a specific team's events. The first thing, so combining two different calendars from Outlook, so a group calendar and a personal calendar, seems easy enough. The second one, combining completely different sources, will probably take a little bit more of our investment and investigation, but just so you know, it's something we're thinking about. It would be good to have your thoughts here as well. New layouts, also way due, lots of requests here, having an actual calendar layout. So that shows the month view, something like what we get in Outlook, right? The month view or the weekly view or the day view. And with that, when we were reviewing the current calendar web grid layouts, we realized that the majority of the layouts we have available now are list layouts, right? So they're just listing events. And we will revisit those and build one very good list layout. So we are thinking about combining all of those list layouts for calendars in one good one, and then developing other more calendar-like layouts. We will also extend support to modern events. So currently, if you are connected to the calendar, to the events list, and when you add a new event from the BindTuning web grid, you're taken to the classic experience. You're not leveraging the new event creation experience that Microsoft has available, in which you create a page with a picture, the participants, and like you pick a location from a map, right? All of that we're not leveraging in the current web grid version. That's something we're willing to change. So when we launch the new calendar web grid, we will support the modern event creation experience, and will also allow you to, when you're clicking a specific event, you'll be able to define what's the action that you want to happen. So maybe you'll want to jump into the specific page that you've created for that event, be it within SharePoint or somewhere else, right? It could be an external link, but you'll be able to map a link to the specific events. If the event is an online event, you'll be able to join a Teams call or a Zoom call directly from the web grid, depending on where the event was created. And will also allow you to add the event to your personal calendar, to your individual calendar. So we'll have an extension there to download and add to your calendar. Now, all of this has brought us to consider the different ways of evolving the calendar web grid. And this is another topic that we're wanting to open up here for discussion. So it looks like we may need two separate web grids. One for events, in which we would have the traditional or the current calendar layout with the list of events, maybe a slider layout as well to display like the next 3 events that the company is organizing, right? We could still have all data sources that we've been talking about, the new ones, and this would be where everyone currently using calendar would be migrated. Now here, we wouldn't have the monthly calendar view. We would be talking about events, not calendar, right? We would have a second calendar web grid, and this would be a new web grid, okay? And this would have that traditional calendar layout, like the Outlook one, right? What we are used to. The source would be initially configured by the admin. So the admin would say, which calendar are we linking here? Is it a group calendar? Is it a group calendar and a personal calendar? What's the source? And it would allow for different calendar overlays. So you could have your Outlook, your personal Outlook calendar and a group calendar combined, right? So let me take a step back. Does this make sense? Would this be, what are your thoughts here? Two separate web grids for two different types of events or purposes, or one single web part that has different layouts?
I like the idea of separate web parts. Just one question too on the calendar. Like currently right now, the SharePoint Modern calendar, if you click a day, it shows the agenda for the day. So once you have, if you have 10 events happening on that same day, will y'all's calendar also support that same functionality? So if they select a day, it will show the agenda view for that day.
When you select, you're jumping to another page, right?
Well, no, so
Or
like
is it-
in a modern calendar right now, the SharePoint calendar, if I have like 10 events on a day in a calendar view, if I select that day, like a little agenda pops out and it shows that day's events. So if because right now, if you have more than like, I think it's like 4 events, after that, it's like, oh, you have the 4 events, and then it says like plus or minus more or whatever, like to show more. So that way the user could still select the day. So if I select the 5th and then I see on the agenda, I would see all the events that are on the 5th. So no matter how many events are on that day, I would still at least see the agenda of that view. But yes, I do like the fact of splitting these out into 2 different elements.
Okay, good. I don't think we were considering what you asked before, but that's definitely something that we can. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Hi, Paul. Yes.
Hi,
sure.
hi. Is it the work you're doing on the calendar web parts? Does that also come through into Teams? Will it be available through Teams? And does it offer us anything in the channel calendar area?
The channel calendar area.
Yeah.
So in the actual Teams calendar, the one you see on the upper on the left?
No, a channel calendar. That's something that our users are very slow to adopt and understand. And I just wonder if there's anything in this calendar that you're doing as a web part through SharePoint that translates into Teams for channel meetings, because they're slightly different to groups, Microsoft 365 groups.
That's very interesting. I don't think we have considered it now, but that's definitely something we can investigate.
Thank you.
Thank you. Marco, do you want to ask any question there, follow up, or no? Do we? No. Okay. Good. Okay.
I have
any other feedback?
Just the piece on the Sapiens that we use. I mean, I don't love their tool, but what we do love of their tool is when we make an event, the person adds themselves to the event, they get an email. They don't have to click download an ICS file. They get an email in exchange. And if they decline their email event, it cancels their seat. And our events can have a limited number of seats, right? So we can say, this event's a 20-person event and first come, first serve, and it takes care of all that crap. So I would really suggest you guys check out what Sapiens is doing, because I think if you could add some of that little sugar on top of what you guys are doing, it just makes for an amazing event management tool. And all it is a couple SharePoint lists that it's managing. So, and then listening on the email, which you guys already have access through Graph, right, to the full email. So.
Yes, actually, that's another question that I'll have. But yeah, okay, we'll investigate that. I think you have mentioned that to us before.
It really is surprisingly useful, and it can do questions like, what's your food allergies and crap like that, right? And then in the email they get includes their answers, so they can't tell us that they didn't tell us that they're vegetarian and stuff like that. Okay. So it's been.
But it creates a SharePoint event. It's just like an interface for creating a SharePoint event. The data source is a SharePoint list or calendar.
It's a SharePoint list. I'm not even sure it's an event. It might be. I mean, a list is a list. Who cares?
Yeah. True.
But from the user's experience, right, they see a calendar of, we call it TACA University courses, and they're like Excel courses, and a person comes in and they only want 20 people in a room, right? So we can throw that together, send out one blast of an email, and they just click and subscribe, and when seats become free, there's overbookings, and the overbooked people get an opportunity to take up a free seat. So it's been quite nice to have that full interaction with the calendar. So yeah.
Okay. Let us deep dive a little bit on what that can do.
The other piece I like, I don't know if anyone else finds them useful, but is a year view, right? Where the day is just 1 through 31, 1 through 30 as a row, and it just has events are here or there was no events here, so you can quickly get into a day that is empty or busy, especially when you're mashing up a bunch of calendars. That could be handy for trying to find a day to do a social event or something, right?
So you see a month at a time.
You see a whole month as a row, and so you see all 12 rows.
Oh, okay.
You see a whole year, and it's just a little box that says there are events or there is no events. It's kind of a, or maybe you do dots if there's an event from the HR calendar and an event from the executive calendar. They could maybe have a hit count, almost like a badge inside the square.
Okay.
So it just gives a really quick way to say what's a free day, right? Or where are we busy as a company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Good. Anything else? No. Okay. So overall, the feedback here is good on the two separate web ports. I like that.
Francis, I've just thought of one thing, only that, and this is something that our users were asking about quite recently. When you talk about the different overlays, our users love them in different colors. Is that part of the web part? They love them in different colors, believe it or not.
No, I do. I'm one of those users.
Yeah, they really do. They were hot on it. Yeah. Is that part of the web part?
Yeah, I think it's part of the discussions already. It is. I don't think we'll be doing that on the first iteration, but I think it's something that we will need to do. Yes.
It was a real deal breaker, oddly enough, but there we go.
Yeah. But actually so you would have and it kind of ties in well with my second and third questions there. So the end user will be able to configure what he's seeing in the calendar. So the admin says, okay, end users can choose to show their calendar and group calendars. And then it's the end user who defines what are the calendars they're seeing and how they want to color code those calendars.
Okay.
Yes. Is that it? So I think
that's what,
Is it a choice of the end user and not something that the admin is configuring?
Yes.
Okay.
Although, in fairness, either would actually probably satisfy them, but everyone likes it a different color.
Okay. Okay. Good. We'll take that into account. Is this something that you needed for a specific project, or?
It was, again, where people were slightly hesitant to use SharePoint-based or, in fact, group-based calendars, and were wanting to use Outlook and Exchange-based shared calendars to achieve something purely because it gave them colors. Or they could configure views with colors.
Okay.
So actually, it did influence the decision on what they did.
Okay. Okay. Well, good feedback. Let's see what's the effort that will require doing this, and we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Okay. So actually, two other topics that we had here for discussion were whether we wanted these views of the month, of the week, of the day, maybe of the year, David, to be controlled by the admin or the end user. Do we want the end user to be able to switch between these views? So they get into
the default. We pick a default, but they can choose whatever they want.
Yeah.
I think that experience is.
Okay. Any additional feedback? Any concerns here? No? Okay. Same thing for the event creation experience. So, and the reason why we added it here is if we're leveraging the modern experience for creating events, there's that page that pops in, right? Where you can pick the picture and the participants and then the details and all of that. That's if you're creating a SharePoint event, right? But if you're connected to a group calendar and you want to add a group event, you would need to go back to Outlook to create it. And so we were thinking about doing that from the webpart itself. But for that, we would need the webpart to have additional, or we would need BindTuning to have additional permissions. Marco, do you want to explain what those permissions would be, like roughly? Because our concern here was, would you be able to accept those permissions?
Yeah, because one thing is just get the events from Outlook, so we only need the read permissions, but to create events, you have to give us to the web part the permission to write on the Outlook. That's something that you can choose if you want or not. But that's the usually. Usually our customers have some sometimes they don't want to give us the full control, but for this we would need that.
Yeah.
Do you know if there's a place where we can audit what you're doing? I think that would give the comfort, right? Because you're right, when we give you write access, you can do a lot of stuff, right? So
yes.
Are you aware of, like, is there a true audit that we can run somewhere to see what you've done? I don't know the back end enough. because that would give comfort, right?
Yes. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know any tool for that.
Okay, maybe we need to look into that. What about everyone else? Is this something that would make sense in theory and from a user perspective? Are there concerns over how we would apply this in practice?
It's a big pain point at our company. We don't know how to share calendars, and when we make a shared calendar, or when we make a SharePoint site that has a list, or when we have a Teams calendar. Like, there's so many things, and people just want, when I add something here, I want it to just be added, right? So I think the concepts is what end users are expecting. When I add when I add something, I want to see it everywhere. So I think you really should go down that avenue. But I agree, it'll be hard sell for that permission ask on the graph, right? But yeah, maybe if we could have some way of doing an audit table of just all the transactions and have that comfort level. I'm sure there's something in the back end of Azure, right? But I don't know. So yeah, I think you got to do it. I think it's a great idea. We might not be able to accept it.
I was waiting for
the
that.
bigger company. But we accepted the Sapiens one, right? And that's creating calendar events. So we've accepted it with other partners for B2C, right? Anyways, I'm sure it'll be good.
Okay. Anyone else who wants to give their feedback here or on anything for the matter? We're just opening up for feedback and questions and suggestions now. This is the time. So anything that's missing on Slider or Calendar or any of the other webparts, to be fair, but no. Okay, so I know it's been a long call. It's way past the hour, and I appreciate the time you've devoted to us. let's make sure that we're keeping the communication channel open, okay? So you know that during the next month, we're going to be working on these web parts. So if while you're working on them or if something comes up, just let us know. Send me an email, push something on user voice. It's let's make sure this exercise really translates into better value to all of you. Okay. And again, when the insider version is ready, you'll receive an email. We'll give you access to everyone on the call today to test the beta versions of the webpart, and from them on, we will keep adding new features and functionalities. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Take care.